All right, welcome to Sales Pipeline Radio. I am your host, Matt Heinz. Excited to have y'all here. Yes, we are outside here. It's the outside, it's the porch studio for Sales Pipeline Radio. Outside here, we're outside of Seattle. We don't get 80-degree days like this all year, so you got to take advantage. We're doing this from outside. If you are joining us live today in the middle of your work week, thank you for making this a part of your day. We'd love to make you part of the show. If you have a comment on our discussion today, if you have a comment, if you have a question, if you have a rebuttal, those are all welcome. Please feel free to throw those into the comments. We will see those. We can respond to those. We can throw those up on screen for you as well, and would love to have any and all of that. If you're watching or listening on demand, thank you so much for checking out Sales Pipeline Radio. Over 500,000 downloads over the course of the last several years, and continue to do this as often as we can to share ideas from some of the best and brightest minds in B2B sales and marketing. Very excited to have with us Anna Luo. She's the EVP of Customer Innovation and Marketing at Jivox. Anna, thanks so much for being here.
Glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, so my icebreaker question to you. What do performance marketers and endurance athletes have in common?
Okay. Well, it's all about data. So let me start with endurance athletics. It is, so when we go out, a swim, bike, run, it's usually, on the bike leg is 70 miles. And so as part of the training, obviously you can't just dive right into it.
Right.
So you gradually build your endurance. And so the data we look at is how much power you produce, during the 3 hours and how to optimize that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we look at power, we look at, training stress scores, we look at intensity factors, lots, right? And then while you're writing, you want to make sure, so for endurance athletes, fueling is very important. So if you have this wonderful engine, but if you run out of fuel, you can't perform. Yep. So we look at how many carbs, grams of carbs you take per hour. And for us, amateurs, it's probably we're working towards 60 grams of carbs per hour. And the professionals, they go to 120 grams. Wow. So imagine that on an hourly basis and how much you can tolerate. So all of that is part of training. So data will tell you, how you're progressing along this path of training. Yep. And same thing for performance marketers. And as you know, right, when you invest, you want to make sure there's ROI in, whatever the ad campaigns that you're running. So, beyond just, clicks, and now a lot of us have shifted to looking at conversions. Mm-hmm. Conversion mean, maybe it is landing on a website, landing on a certain page, landing to join a free trial. Ultimately, we're all being judged by revenue. Everybody in our company, the North Star is revenue, and that includes marketing.
Yeah, no, it has to be. It has to be. And I think I like your analogy, and I like the way you describe sort of endurance. And sort of the other thing I think about, if you're going to go on a 70-mile bike trail trip, if you're going to swim across the English Channel, if you're going to do some of these like crazy things, like there's a lot of preparation that goes into this. You don't just like put your Speedo on and get in the water, right? And if you say like, oh, I got to spend a year preparing for this, it's like, what? That's crazy. Like what goes into that? And you're like, if I don't actually do this, what? Like I could get hurt, right? And like some people don't typically die for marketing campaigns, but I also think like some of the channels we have made it so easy just to send an email or just to write an ad or just to post something, that if we forget that you still need preparation, you still need to have the fundamentals. Who am I talking to? What do they care about? Where am I meeting them? Like how does this fit in? The context matters greatly in terms of how you execute that. I'm seeing cases where that preparation can be accelerated in many ways through AI by answering some of those questions in a more, not only a deeper, faster way, but a more dynamic way as well. Are you seeing some of that too?
Oh, absolutely. Especially with AI. Now you can really look at, your audience in a much more precise way. So for example, retail media, first party data, right? So retailers, so for a long time, CPG brands, they don't have specific customer data. And now that retailers, because they know who buys, like Amazon, for example, they have purchase history. They have all kinds of data about your behavior, right? What's in your cart, all the content. And all of that stuff is valuable, super valuable. And when you go to like Target or Walmart, they have store data, right? So what shoppers, what they buy online and in store. So it becomes really rich. And what do you do with this data, and how do you organize this data? And that's where AI comes in.
Well, I feel like for so long we've had access to this data. And when I say access, I mean the data exists. It might be in like 14 different systems or platforms or data centers. And so like for a long time, like we've had this amazing library, but all the books are on the floor and you have no idea how to access it, let alone sometimes to know what questions you should ask, right? Like even if you have all the data together, today you have to know, you have to have asked a very tactical question, right, to get to that data. With AI, even with what exists today, you can ask outcome related questions, and the models are going to be able to translate that into tactical questions to get to your answer. It's pretty crazy.
Oh, I know. And this is a tremendous tool for marketers. So for example, currently our team is a third of what we used to be. And it is because AI is not just a tool, it becomes a part of our team. So we look at, for the few of us on the team, what are our strengths, right, as humans? And then where are the gaps? So this is where we deploy AI to fill in the gaps for us. And to turn out the kind of volume of content that we're able to do, it's impossible to scale it without AI.
It is, and I think there's a lot of folks that are worried about like, oh, this is going to take my job away. I think it's going to change the job you're doing. You think about, like, I was talking to a friend this morning. We were talking. He was saying, like, outside my office, there's a construction project happening, right? And there's like 8 people on site right now working various machines. Like 100 years ago, that would have been 100 people with pickaxes, like just manually trying to get through, the ground. Now you've got 8 people doing that work, but someone's got to service and sell all these machines as well, right? And so there's a bunch of people still supporting that construction project. I'm old enough to remember when Sabre was released, and we thought that the travel agents were going to go away. When Sabre was released and the Internet Expedia came out, there were 200,000 travel agents who had access to that. Same thing for realtors in the MLS, the multiple listing service. 200,000 travel agents back then. Do you know how many there are today in the United States?
How many?
600,000. There's more, because like the complexity of travel has increased. The specialization of like, where should I go? What should I do? And how do I create these bespoke experiences at an individual and a group level? Like we reinvented what used to be sort of 90% of their job accessing Sabre is now 5%. And they found other ways to be valuable to an audience that continues to travel. Are we going to, it's hard to know what that's going to look like without living through it. Do you think we're going to see something like that as AI continues to evolve and scale?
Well, okay, scale definitely. And I think I'm going to talk more about, like what kind of skills we need to develop now that we have AI. I can't speak for the longer term though, because AI, it's self-learning, especially, with these agentic AI. I'm not sure where that's going to take us, but today, for example, people who start using AI and to use that as a tool to help them with productivity, those people will actually do well. For example, you're hearing a lot of the agencies, firing their content creators, their, designers and copywriters, because they think, the job there, it could easily be replaced by AI. Now, so we work with contractors. We have a writer, a content producer. We also have a team of social media. Now, we're training them to use AI so that, for example, you go use AI to research, right? What are some of the hot topics, that people talk about today in the market? And then you come back and you start creating, all of this can be done with AI. So the writer can actually manage multiple articles at the same time, and he just overlaid the human voice. So that's how they actually can perform and can do well in this, in this world.
Yeah, our lizard brains are going to continue to seek out something interesting, something entertaining, something that seems useful to us. AI is going to help us get there, but I've seen many companies say, I don't need BDRs anymore. I'm going to have AI do all my inside sales." And then they scramble to bring some people back because they needed to be a partnership, not a full replacement. Same thing with content, same thing with design, same thing with a wide variety of things where doing it faster, cheaper, easier, we think it solves a seller problem. It actually doesn't entirely, and it makes a bigger problem for the buyers. Like I've had chief marketing officers show me their inboxes now versus before, and now that AI is making it easier to send emails, it's just more noise, right? And the more noise isn't helping anybody, buyers or sellers. So we still have to be smart, right? Back to your endurance athletes, we still have to be smart. We still have to prepare. We still have to think about how best to engage on this. Talking to the Sales Pipeline Radio, very excited to have Anna Liu out here. She is the SVP, I'll make sure I get this title right, SVP Customer Innovation and Marketing at Jivox. And we were talking earlier, Anna, about how you guys are using AI internally. How is it helping your organization just operate in a smarter, better way?
Well, it starts with if your platform is built on AI, you can have this, direct. You can have this hierarchical reporting
Right.
as part of the structure. So the first thing we change is the organization itself. So instead of like, here's a marketing team, here's a sales team, product team, and so on, we now have this growth team, right? So that's like the hub, and then you have all these other spokes. So marketing is part of it. Everything is an offshoot, from that hub, and all the knowledge will feed right back into the hub. And so we are not, so from that standpoint, when you deploy AI, it is the knowledge sharing is a lot more fluid. And so I think from the organizational learning and just aligning, the message with the product, with customer feedback, it's a lot more efficient.
Well, and that the connecting your LLMs to each other in an organization, I don't see a lot of companies do that. Even those that are more advanced in terms of their not just individual but corporate use of AI, like the machine learning becomes like hive learning for your company, right? Like you think about how many things happen, and there's no post-mortem that says here's what worked, here's what didn't, right? Because we have to physically create that post-mortem, and even if you do it, it sits in a C drive somewhere, and like no one can find it once that person leaves for another company. Now it's accessible to all, right? What's the history of how this company has done X? What worked and what didn't? Should we do it moving forward? Instant access to that information for everybody, right? You think about like when you had this sort of what was the internal the internal knowledge hubs that we used to have, but you had to physically throw everything up there. Like now it just exists in your LLM for your company. Connecting those together becomes critically important.
Well, not only post-mortem, but let me just take you to the opposite end. Like when you want to get into a new market, all that research, right? And then how do you know your GTM is the right, is the correct approach? Now with AI, you can simulate. So for example, we have a hackathon, and it's a small team of, myself, a product person, and engineer. And the simulation is we have this product, we want to take it to it's saturated in where we are, and we want to create a new market. And so we start looking at direct consumers. And so you look at the first scenario would be, okay, what are the most profitable? What categories have the highest growth? Now, in reality, because of tariffs and all these other economic, forces, what's happening is you want to overlay some of that. And so you run a simulation again with different, constraints. So you just keep running it, and you can see the results right there before you dive right in. So that for us is just amazing.
See, I told you we'd run out of time. We're already getting close to the end here. I do want to ask you about the importance of data, because that access to data is going to be the biggest limiter for people's use of AI moving forward. What are your recommendations for companies that understand that but want to be able to sort of unlock that data in a more productive way?
Wow, that's a huge question.
Yeah.
And so AI, right, is a powerful engine. It's like a Ferrari, but without fuel, it doesn't run. And with bad fuel, it doesn't perform.
Right.
So data is absolutely important, and also good, clean data. So in our industry today, there's a lot of data, but it's very fragmented.
Yeah.
And so I think the first thing is, organize your data. And after that, you start using that to train the AI. And I think that needs to happen. It's easier said than done. I'm saying it because we're going through that ourselves.
It's a work in progress, and you can't expect it to happen, immediately, I think. But I think, again, back to our performance marketer and, and elite athlete scenario, like the more you plan, the more you prepare, the more you think now about what you need to have. You may not have access to all the data you need. You may not have it all together. You may not have the connected LLMs in your organization, but understand the importance and the impact that can have and start moving in the right direction. The best time is early, right? And I think we're at that amazing early adopter, sort of scale up of the technology here, and the early adopters are going to really benefit from doing this, as you have, Anna, and as your organization has. Thank you so much for being part of this, for joining Sales Pipeline Radio today. Really appreciate your insights.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining and watching and listening. We'll be back soon with another episode of Sales Pipeline Radio. Until then, take care. We'll see you soon.
Bye.